That's so mean. Marquise wanted me to start the show off by just insulting him. That's
That's not what I.
insane.
No,
He was
it was
pitching. He was trying to pitch this whole because everybody's dressed up. He's like, "Oh, you should do this whole thing where you're like, you didn't dress up, Marquise." And that's just really mean.
no. I was saying like the internal monologue from the. What are we talking about? You know what? Start the episode. Just start the episode. Psycho, psycho.
This is what is that?
You're really trying to create a narrative that we're bullying you, Mikey.
Welcome to episode 10 of I Finally Saw, where today I finally saw Psycho. Well, hello and welcome to all you lovely, beautiful people out there. Today we are talking about Psycho, and the dogs I am dog sitting are scratching at the door. Today I am joined once again by Andromeda,
Hey, y'all.
by Dayton,
Hello.
and of course, last but certainly far from least, is Marquise.
Yo,
Okay. He sounded so dejected. Is everything okay?
I'm fine. I'm
Oh, okay.
perfectly okay.
I'm worried about you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So today, as stated previously, of course, we're talking about the Hitchcock classic 1960s Psycho. So I guess let's just go ahead and run on into it and introduce the movie, as always, with a little paragraph that I copied from Google because I'm too lazy to write anything myself. Phoenix secretary Marion Crane, portrayed by Janet Leigh, on the lam after stealing $40,000 from her employee in order to run away with her boyfriend, Sam Loomis, portrayed by John Gavin, is overcome by exhaustion after a heavy rainstorm. Traveling on the back roads to avoid the police, she stopped for the night at a ramshackle Bates Motel and meets the polite but highly strung proprietor Norman Bates, portrayed by Anthony Perkins, a young man with an interest in taxidermy and a difficult relationship with his mother.
Here we have a quiet little motel, when in fact it has now become known as the scene of the crime.
So, to kick things off as we typically do, Andromeda, do you have a bit of a history lesson for us?
I do. And this one is probably one of the most difficult, considering Hitchcock's place in cinema, like generally speaking. But this is also one of those movies that, is similar to like Citizen Kane in perception, where people are like, this is one of the greatest movies of all time. So, unlike other directors that we've talked about on the podcast, I do think that Hitchcock is a director that deserves all the praise because unlike some of these directors, like you
Oh,
can
wow.
shake up things, you know, in cinema, but very few like change industry practices, right? So one of the things that people typically know about this time in Hollywood that was common practice up until even the early 70s was that movie theaters operated as like an open access pass type of thing. So you would buy a ticket, you would walk into the movie whenever it started because the movie would just loop all day. And Hitchcock had the audacity to tell theaters that people would have to get there at a certain time and start the movie. And then he also did a lot of ads and even pre-roll for the audience saying that once the movie is finished, you cannot spoil it. I think it's really interesting to think that this was revolutionary at the time because it's common practice now, and not all gimmicks like this necessarily work. Like, I think about Robert Rodriguez's Spy Kids 4D thing, and that did not become a common practice at all. But this movie was made for less than $500,000 because it was shot in black and white, and it's even more interesting when we talk about this stage in a director's career because he made Psycho as his 49th movie out of 55. And while that's impressive, he fully funded it because he wanted to create a movie with full artistic vision and no studio interference. And in addition to that, the Hays Code was also in full effect during the release of this movie, which means there was a lot of taboo around self-censorship and morally unacceptable things. So, like guns, sex, violence, murder, women, and revealing clothing and other fun stuff. But, but funny enough, like even though this movie broke the Hays Code in almost every way, The film went on to be preserved by the National Film Registry and also pioneered a lot of things in the industry. Like, it pioneered the horror genre as a whole, it inspired a lot of your favorite filmmakers, and it garnered over 50 million at the box office, and especially insane considering how low of a budget this movie was working with.
I think that we're all in our private traps, clamped in them.
Like, everyone knows the iconic, like, shower scene where, spoilers if you haven't watched the movie, but Miriam gets stabbed in the shower by Norman. So, like, I think everyone's pretty familiar with at least, like, in a visual sense, that scene. I didn't realize this until I, like, watched the movie, but I would always see the ad, like when I was younger, in the 2010s for the show called Bates Motel, which is a contemporary prequel to Psycho. And so I didn't know until I was watching the movie and she pulls up the Bates Motel. I was like, oh, that's like that's connected to this. And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. But yeah, that's my familiarity with the movie. And also, I knew it was like directed by Hitchcock. Hitchcock's like a very prominent director.
Marquise, I have a question.
Yeah.
When the shower scene happened, did you jump up in your seat and were like, ooh, ooh?
No, I was
Did
not.
you
I
see
was.
that?
No, there was no naked lady, bro.
Oh, okay. So you weren't locked in at all.
You got really. You got
You
really.
need,
I
like,
was
a
like,
peek or
I
something?
was like, no, it was like, like your parents get you a birthday cake, but then you find out it's like carrot cake. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he saw her turn on the shower. He was like, oh.
He was so
Yes,
excited.
exactly.
And then he
Yes, Dan, exactly like that.
So to surmise, this movie, Alfred Hitchcock edged Marquise.
Is that when he stops the movie?
Yeah, I was heartbroken. Thanks for that, Hitchcock.
Okay, we gotta get out of here. Dayton, what about you?
I mean, I was pretty like used to like the iconography. I don't know exactly where I first saw it, but everyone knows the music, like the dun dun, the shower scene. I know the very last scene of the movie. So the twist didn't get me. I knew it.
Where'd you know that from?
What?
Where'd you know that scene from?
People would just reference it. Like Nostalgia Critic, I think one time did it.
Oh, interesting.
Nostalgia Critic ruined Psycho for me.
Okay.
That should be the title for this episode.
Yeah.
Like other people on the panel, that's where my familiarity is with it, the shower scene and all of that. I actually watched it for the first time when I started film school, and my partner was the one that wanted to watch it. And I was like absolutely shocked because they hate watching black and white movies. They hate watching old movies. And I was like, okay, let's watch it. You're never interested in watching, movies in general. So we did, and he really liked it. But even his familiarity with it was the same scenes. And when I was talking with him for the recording of this episode, I was like, before we even watched this movie, did you know what was going to happen? And he said yes. And I think it's really interesting because I think a lot of what we see in movies nowadays like derives a lot from Hitchcock in general, and even Psycho especially, but then we just don't really know where it comes from, right? So then watching it is kind of like interesting because it's just all these things that you've seen and heard before, but then you're actually watching it for the first time, but it's just not the same experience as when people first watched it in theaters.
This movie sits in a very peculiar place for me because although this is technically the first time I've actually sat down and watched it and getting ready for this episode, I feel like I knew a lot of the movie pretty front to back because I don't know, I think Hitchcock as a topic had just kind of fascinated me, and so I kind of remember going down a rabbit hole of just trying to learn about it, because this specific movie is one I think that people love to really dissect. And so, I mean, obviously this is stuff everybody knows, like the just the sharp single notes, because that's been referenced endlessly in the shower scene. But even down to just like the analysis of the fact that like the protagonist of the movie basically just disappears and switches halfway through, and it almost becomes an entirely different movie halfway through, and that was like super unusual. Like I knew about that. I knew about sort of Norman and that thing, and so it was interesting because it was like I had such a clear picture in my head of how a lot of those things, what a lot of the elements in this movie were, and even necessarily like how they came together, and even like analysis of those elements in terms of like a cultural context, in terms of like this was taboo to do at the time. One of the most repeated pieces of trivia I've heard about this movie is that, if I remember correctly, this is the first movie to show a toilet.
Yeah.
Which is like
specifically like flushing the toilet with like in it.
right. So because like it just wasn't. It feels so like I don't know, commonplace, or like you wouldn't think twice about that now, but
Yeah.
So it's
taboo
like
back then.
I think this is one of the movies that I knew just the most about before we even got into, and it was just kind of like an experience of just like, oh, now it's this scene, oh, now it's this scene, now it's this scene, because I don't know if I watched like a director's commentary or something on this a while ago, but I know I had never seen it, but I remember I heard a lot of analysis about like the shifting protagonist, the shifting genre, about Hitchcock as the master of suspense. So yeah, it was still incredibly worthwhile to finally see the whole thing in context. But I definitely think I had a very different viewing experience than as intended as a result.
I find it really interesting that you like all you guys have had like some amount of experience with this movie, because like I went in it pretty much like completely blind. Like actually the only thing I ever knew about this movie was the fact that somebody got stabbed in a shower. You know what I mean? So like I was very like surprised when like Marion was killed off, and it was like, oh, like I thought this was gonna like because like the movie almost leads you to believe that like she's the psycho, like as she's running away with this money, she's like starting to become way more paranoid. And then for a second I thought like the cop was gonna be like the main antagonist, and he was just gonna be like following her throughout the movie. But like she gets to the hotel, she has this conversation with Norman, and then she dies. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh, that's like a third of the way through the movie. So like that was very surprising to me, to say the least. And I was like, it was just something I wasn't expecting, and it's something like you don't really see nowadays, especially considering like how influential and old this movie is. Like you don't see like your main protagonist get killed a third of the what you would assume to be the main protagonist get killed a third through the movie. Like this scene is very reminiscent of like the opening to like a horror like a 5-minute opening to like a actual horror movie, where like you have like, I guess if you treat it as like a short film, you have like your main character that gets killed by the evil entity within like the first 5 minutes to set up like I guess the presence that this evil entity is supposed to have on the rest of the movie. And so it kind of felt like that, just extremely longer, like with a way more of a build up. You know what I mean? So I was very shocked by that, and I'm surprised like you guys weren't able to have like that same exact.
I don't know. It was I don't know where exactly I picked up on a lot of those things. I think it's just a matter of like the fact that I'm sure part of it is just the fact that I was probably like for like 15 years ago or something, I was like chronically addicted to Watch Mojo, that was probably part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so much of like, I must have seen like a Roger Ebert commentary on this movie or something just on a whim, because so much of like just like the analysis of like this movie in context, I vividly remember, because like I even knew about like the end, like the very last shot of the movie, and the whole sequence of the car getting sunk. Like I specifically remember at some point I watched something where somebody was like analyzing that scene and then that last shot and about how like the whole like she's literally being like buried out of the movie at this point. So I don't know where I picked up all those things. It's just kind of like something that I feel like I've just known about.
And in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place. I think we can go inside because the place is up for sale.
I think this is actually the first Hitchcock movie I've seen just in its entirety all in one go. And I never had any reason to doubt this, like, a title, I guess, that people have given him. But I do really, having seen just this movie, I do really understand why people kind of put him up there as, like, the master of suspense. Because there's so many times throughout just this movie where somebody is freaking out and they're trying so hard to keep their cool. Constantly happening throughout this movie, and it made it, even though I knew the broad strokes of what was going to happen and I knew the twists and turns and all that, like it made it so that I still always felt invested. It still always felt like I was discovering something because just the way that was written and the performance. I don't know. That was something I really enjoyed.
Yeah, again, this is also my first Hitchcock movie, and I think it is very well shot, especially for like the time. I think it's up there with with Citizen Kane for sure. I love how at the beginning of the movie it's before it devolves into this psychotic nightmare sequence kind of. It's very like normal, very like plain shots. Very like, I guess, what you would expect, and then like as soon as Miriam steals the money and starts like running away, it devolves into this like more dreamlike type of cinematography, more like nightmare fuel type thing. I would say, and I think it's very enlightened for Hitchcock to do that. It like kind of brings the audience on this trip with her as like. We like the way the cinematography sets up, it makes us even more like paranoid for her. You know what I mean? So I think that's like very truly brilliant from Hitchcock.
I really agree with Marquis saying the cinematography was fantastic because there are so many shots that are like I'm still thinking of, even though they weren't. I don't even think they were that important. Like there was the time where the guy was screaming for the PI. It's just one shot coming closer on Norman Bates, and he's not even like. He's not even like interacting with the guy in the scene, but it's such a him just standing in the desert and it goes in on him and the contrast of lighting on his face.
Yeah. He's
so
at the bog,
good.
right?
However, I'm mostly kind of disappointed with this movie.
Really?
I like Hitchcock's work. I love Strangers on a Train. That's like a great movie. I just thought this movie was just underwhelming compared to his other stuff I've seen. Like if people said this is his best work, I prefer his other stuff.
Okay. Is there anything in particular about it?
From what I've gotten from Hitchcock, it always feels very. He has a lot of very strong imagination into it, and then this is just like this is a story that's very. I guess at the time it wasn't very basic, but as of recent, there's just so much, like multiple personalities, killer stories. I kind of felt like I know Hitchcock. Like Stranger on a Train, the concept of two strangers just like agreeing to kill somebody for each other is great. And like I wouldn't have thought of that really. But this movie I feel like was just very, very basic, which isn't a bad thing. It was just more this movie is still very good and the suspense very much like I felt the paranoia throughout all of this movie. But I felt very disappointed whenever I know other Hitchcock works, and this is very different from that.
I would say I was disappointed in a different aspect. Like I said, this movie is very suspenseful. I don't think it's a full-on horror. It might have been for the time, maybe, but like I feel like we should like start reclassifying movie genres as we go along. Just because like I wouldn't consider this a horror based on like what we have today. Like I would say like I would consider like Final Destination a horror. A lot of like the Halloween movies, some of this maybe some of the Scream movies are horror, but like this feels more like a like more of a thriller. Like in the grand scheme of things, we only have 2 on-screen deaths, right? And so it's just like it's not all the horror genre is about, but I feel like gruesome murders is like kind of what defines the horror genre a little bit, right?
I think
And
isn't that
so-
the whole point of horror though? Well, like I think this movie specifically because I think Hitchcock's point was that he didn't want it to be like obvious that it was a horror movie. Like that's why he set up the first 45 minutes of the crime thriller, right? Like the setup was good and that's what allowed us to fully like invest ourselves into Marion, right?
Yeah,
And like
no,
it
and
being so much more shocking that she dies. And like I think the horror itself is also really terrifying. Like nothing is more to me, nothing would be scarier than going to take a shower and then someone fucking killing me.
yeah, but like I
That
don't.
is terrifying.
I don't. I mean, maybe it's just a me thing, but like I was more like, ooh, like that's like, whoa, you know what I mean? And like I'm not like shaking in my boots like I would be when I'm watching. No, like for
What was
lack
the
of a
last?
better,
Wait, what was the last movie you watched that made you shake in your boots?
I don't know. I used to like
Okay.
any vampire movie as a kid used to like make me shake in my boots.
You went to go see Hotel Transylvania, and you were just like, "Oh
know.
man!"
Adam
I'm
Sandler!
not a- No, I'm not a huge fan of the horror genre, so like I don't watch a lot of horror movies, right? But like this didn't feel horror to me; it just felt more thriller. Like when she was stabbed in the when she was stabbed in the shower, like I wasn't really scared. I was like, ooh, like that was tough. And then like when the PI got killed and fell down the stairs, again I wasn't like necessarily scared. I was just kind of like shocked a little bit, like thrilled, right? And like as far as this goes, this movie was more funny to me than scary.
Violence against
Like,
women
dude-
is funny, Marquise.
Huh?
Violence against women is funny.
He's thinking about it.
Only one woman is killed in this movie. No, I'm not thinking. No, I just like,
There is no
listen,
woman killed in
listen.
Psycho. There's the most iconic kill was not a woman. Is that what you said? What did you say?
Mary, no, I said there was only one woman killed
Okay.
in Psycho.
Well,
So like
we saw one
half
woman
half
killed
of the
on
murders,
we saw
half of
two
the murders in
dead
this
women bodies. We saw 2 dead women
on
bodies.
screen, only one woman was killed,
yes,
right?
on screen.
That's what I'm saying.
We didn't
Only
see
one
the
woman.
We didn't see the.
I
mom
said
die.
one, not
It's the same
none.
thing as,
One,
like, the-
Dayton.
I said corpse. I just said corpse. I said there was 2 corpses.
Yes, okay, but my
2
point
women
is,
corpses.
I don't know why Andromeda even made that point. She's just shy. She's baiting right now. She's baiting. Anyways,
You're
no,
deflecting.
I let out a huge belly laugh when Marion like Marion's sister walks down the stairs and I'm like, oh, and it clicked. I was like, oh, the mom's dead. And then she pulls the body. It's I was like, oh, and then fucking I don't know if you want to call him Norman or her mother comes in. I just
He's
started.
losing
I
it.
started bursting out laughing because it's just Norman in a dress and a wig with a knife, and he's just like,
Oh my god.
I was like, oh, this movie is just so.
Marquise was cracking up. We gotta show Marquise Sleepaway Camp. If this was his reaction to Psycho, we gotta show Marquise.
Oh my
Sleepaway
god,
Camp.
sleepaway camp is good.
Like, I don't know.
Oh,
I
boy.
did laugh, Marquise. I also laughed at something in this movie, but it wasn't. It was
What?
the death with the PI.
Oh,
I just thought it was
yeah.
really funny how he was going down the stairs like, ah! And it's like the like behind him, it's all like it's just very much straight falling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's levitating above the ground.
Or no, and I just like think about it, like imagine like
thinking.
what Marion, like the mix of emotions Marion had to go through to see a man in drag. Well, I don't know if you want to like consider her mother.
Drag? What?
Huh?
How was that drag?
I mean, I mean that's what it was considered at the time. I don't like what do you want me to say? No, Norman. In her mind, all she sees is Norman in a wig and a dress,
We
stabbing her.
We don't know for
Huh?
sure if she realized it was Norman because his face was shrouded. You know,
I just took that as like a camera, like to hide us, the audience.
and maybe
from
it's
the-
ambiguous, Marquise. Maybe it's up to audience interpretation. I mean,
Yeah, but if-
I don't know. This is where I maybe personally disagree because I think my kind of headcanon about that scene is that she's maybe more concerned about getting stabbed as opposed to who necessarily is doing the stabbing. You know,
Listen, bro. If I when I die, if I get killed, I want to know who did it. So that'd be what's on my mind.
That's the only way that Marquise is gonna die. Marquise is only gonna be died by being stabbed by somebody.
I can imagine Marquise being a ghost, and there's like a true crime episode made about him, and he's listening to it from the afterlife, and he's just so mad that it's unsolved because he's like, it's so obvious.
Yes.
The cops were right there. They were right at the finish line.
Come on, bro. Justice for Keith. If I get murdered and there's not a hashtag justice for Keith,
When?
If,
I'm
okay,
okay.
okay, I really hope I never have to do this. But okay, if Marquise ever gets murdered, I will do my best to campaign hashtag justice for Keys.
thank you, Austin. I appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Well,
I'll
speaking
miss
of
you when
okay,
you're murdered, Marquise. I'll miss you when you're murdered.
when, not if. Okay, I gotta get back on track here because it's interesting. So obviously, this is like probably one of, if not the most iconic death scenes in the history of cinema. And I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit because it's funny how I think it's a really wonderful example of doing a lot with a little because like we never really see there's never like an actual like gag where like the knife like slashes like a rubber knife like slashes across the skin or we actually see her getting punctured. It's just like all of these really quick cuts and it's a really good example of just showing texture more than like the literal action to really kind of give that visceral impression because I think that sequence feels a lot more like startling than if we had just had like a straight shot of her getting stabbed in a way. And or maybe not, but the point is that like it works. And I think it was a wonderful like circumvention on the technicality of what I'm assuming was their attempt to get around the Hays Code. But the actress who plays Miriam in that scene is Janet Leigh, who you guys may or may not realize is what's her name?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis's mom, right? So two horror icons, pursued by men with butcher knives, right? I guess it runs in the family. And Jamie Lee Curtis, as well as her mother, obviously in the scene, have sort of talked about the fact that, like, I guess I don't know if it was filming the scene or seeing it on screen for the first time, but that it like that experience of I guess watching herself get murdered in the shower like freaked her out to a degree that for a significant portion of her life she would only take baths, if I remember correctly. So the story goes, she would only take baths, and if she had to take a shower, she would do it allegedly, according to a quote I found, she would do it curtain open, facing the door, no matter where the shower head was.
I mean, real.
Which makes me like wonder. I wonder if there's any other people out there that have like famous death scenes in like horror movies, and then like they watch the movie and then they're like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that anymore." Like, is there anybody on who worked on Final Destination that just won't ever get on a roller coaster?
Yeah, I would imagine. Right?
But
I could imagine.
I thought it was interesting. Something that I thought was kind of funny in the obviously there's the iconic slashing opening credits, which have probably been parodied to death. But I think the thing that made me chuckle the first time I saw this movie was just how specific the establishing text was at the beginning of the movie. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but we get the location, which is pretty standard, right? But then it says like the exact day. I think it's like December. It's like early December. It's like December 9 or 10 or something. And then, not even spelled out with numbers, spelled out in English text, it tells us what the exact time it is. And it's like 3:52 p.m. or something. I was like, oh, he really wants us to know.
There was one of the the popular ad for this movie was not any footage from the movie. It was Hitchcock standing in front of the Motel Bates talking about the murders as if it happened. And he's like, it made the movie better after I watched that, because Hitchcock walks you through the sets as if it was a real murder that happened, and it's really strong. If you check it out when you can, because it really adds to that movie and to why people were more interested in seeing it, because it had no clips from the movie. He's like, this is Motel Bates. This is this is a nice place to have vacation. Is now a scene of a murder. And then and then he walks us through the house and the room that Marion is murdered in. It's very good. It's a very good commercial.
It's like the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
Thinking where you're doing your marketing to make your film seem like it's real, even though it's not. And it's really effective. I mean, I've seen a lot of people make similar comparisons between the two movies of this feels way too real, and only after the fact do I know that it's not.
Andromeda, I don't know if we've touched over your sort of overall thoughts about this movie. I know you're something of a Hitchcock fan, if I remember correctly. So I'm curious. I'm assuming this is a revisit for you. What is there anything new? Does this hold up? Where does this rank and place in terms of your other sort of Hitchcock favorites?
Similar to Dayton, I really like Strangers on a Train. I think that Hitchcock has a lot of really great films, but I haven't seen that many, and this is only my second watch of Psycho, funny enough. But the thing that I can appreciate the most about his work is just his intentionality. We've talked a lot about the beginning of the movie having a complete different feel to the latter half of the movie, and it really comes into play in the lighting and the editing choices. The beginning, it's very standard fades between shots, whereas in the latter half of the movie it is really quick, abrupt cuts, and it adds to the anxiety that Marion feels, especially when we get to the point where she is in the car running away from the money, and she pulls over the road, the cop pulls up, and he's getting suspicious, so she goes and buys another car with the money in cash, and then the salesman is sussed out. And then she's like, all right, well, made that mistake before, I'm gonna go to this motel, right? I think it's just really interesting to see these techniques utilized even as far back as the 60s, right? Because considering it's just so commonplace now, but in general, I really do appreciate that Hitchcock is very intentional with where he places the camera, how he does the lighting, and the editing.
So, Marquise, I wanted to ask you because I think, as you had mentioned, this is a movie that you went into really, really blind. So I'm curious to hear your perspective on a number of things. As obviously you mentioned, you were really freaked out. Or not freaked out, but surprised when the movie basically just completely shifts gears halfway through. And again, another thing I remember people kind of talking about in reference to the analysis of this movie is the way Hitchcock almost sort of is poking fun at the idea of a MacGuffin by the fact that partway through the movie the money is just never really seen or that relevant again. So I'm curious then, especially with how sort of, you've kind of hinted at it, but with how sort of wild the ending of this movie sort of wraps up. I'm curious to hear your perspective on some of that stuff. As you mentioned, you kind of started to figure things out, and then especially that sort of ending monologue where everything is kind of pieced together.
Marion's sister and her boyfriend like go to that couple and they're like, hey, like we I think they're like, we want to know more about Norman Bates and his mother or whatever. And they're like, his mother's been dead for 10 years or or like whatever. And then I was like, well, maybe like they swap, like it wasn't actually his mom, like he's just crazy enough to swap it with another, or she killed a couple and Norman was just like, okay, we'll pretend like it was a different couple and have them buried or whatever. That was my initial thoughts. And then like as soon as the sister starts walking down the stairs to the fruit cellar, I was like, oh, the mom's
started grunting
dead.
in pain.
No, I wasn't grunting in pain. I was just like, oh, I get it. The mom's dead. But then I was like, well, if the mom's dead, then who was doing the murdering? And then again, Norman just burst through the door in the way, and I was like, oh, okay, this is making sense.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, and then I thought it was really interesting how like Hitchcock felt the need to have like a psychologist explain the movie to us. Which, I mean, not to say that like the psychologist doesn't give us like a lot of insight on, I guess, the mentality of Norman, but it's also I think it's also funny how we had to paint out like, yeah, like Norman was pretending to be his mom, or in his mind Norman was his mom essentially. And I think it's really like, I wish we had more of a understanding of him and his mother's relationship, which I guess spin-offs and sequels and prequels I guess dive into this a little bit more. But I would love to hear like Hitchcock's interpretation of this, and I guess we kind of get that from the psychologist of how like maybe Norman was jealous of his mom's relationship with the guy that he also killed with like some type of poison, and that's how his mom died and how he died. But I would love to like see that relationship a little bit more, see like exactly how it ended up from Hitchcock's perspective. But as far as the ending goes, I thought it was good. I thought it was like, you know, very very clear, very very nicely wrapped up, a little bow on it. I really like the ending where like Mother is talking to Norman inside Norman's head as we like slowly push in, and like, yeah, and he makes that face, and it's just like, I was like, oh, that's it leaves you with a little bit, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
like, yeah, I like everything's wrapped up, but it's not necessarily right.
Yeah, but it's just like even though like, yeah, we caught the killer, Norman very clearly has some sort of abusive trauma with his mother. Like that's why I at least I feel, and that's why he starts kind of developing this persona. So it's like, although like, you know, quote unquote all else that ends well, Norman's still messed up. He still has like this trauma that like is not fully resolved, and like we like kind of just don't know what like it, like in a way I almost feel sorry for him, but it's at the same time like he was not processing it in a way that is healthy, right? And that's not necessarily his fault, right? But it's just like, it just leaves you like with like this, oh well, that kind of sucks that like Norman, like he's not, we don't know if Norman's gonna get help or not. We don't know how his story is going to end. So that's a little unfortunate.
Well, you know, I mean, it was the 1960s, so I'm sure they had amazing psychological help for people in situations like him.
Yeah, you know, I think there's just one movie, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh wait, was that Kubrick, right?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. Was it?
Was that?
Is it Kubrick? Is it Kubrick or
No,
Hitchcock?
I remember
it wasn't Kubrick.
not Kubrick, but it's shot very similar to his style.
Well, the reason I bring up Kubrick is I wanted to talk about something, because this movie is a shining example of what we like. It features a shining example of what we like to call the Kubrick stare. So for those of you unaware, the Kubrick stare coined for this technique that Stanley Kubrick used in movies like The Shining and Clockwork Orange, is basically the ultimate shortcut to to making your character look creepy and unstable. So, for those of you at home, if you'd like to follow along, it's pretty simple. You face forward, chin down, your eyes are kind of looking up straight forward, and you just do a smile, right? And that's the Kubrick stare. And this movie, obviously, like 20 years, 10 years before like Kubrick is really kind of employing it and kind of coins it, but it's probably one of the most iconic examples of a Kubrick stare, sorry, that I can think of. And once you notice it, you won't see it anywhere. I mean, you still see it today. I mean, it's basically the entire premise of the Smile movies, Smile 1 and 2. I mean, the entirety of those movies, they're just doing the Kubrick stare, you know? So, I mean, you still see it today. I'm sure it even probably predates this movie, but I thought it was interesting because it's just like, it's probably one of the most prominent, famous examples of that technique that I can think of.
One thing I can say I don't care for is the very end shot is them pulling the car out of the mud. The end shot should have been the stare. They just have they just quickly flash that the car's being pulled out of the mud and then just credits.
See, this might be a silly thing to say. I kind of love that shot because of how bad of a taste in your mouth it leaves. Like the gross and grimy mud just flailing off of it, and the knowledge that like even though we don't see it, she's in that trunk and she's dead, and the money's in there, and like whatever, like to me it's almost like that's the point. It's that like it would have been like the perfect like movie sort of thing to do, but then to like bring us back one more time full circle to Miriam and her story, and just leave you with that little bad taste in your mouth of just like we solved the crime, but like we still like, you know, there are characters here that have lost a partner, a sibling. And the way you sort of see that in the car is all junked up, and the just gross texture of the mud like falling off of it. I mean, like it may be a strain. Maybe I'm like reaching a little bit here.
You changed my mind. You've changed my mind.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking just like it was just very awkwardly placed to where it felt more comedic though.
Yeah,
which really
it
didn't
comes out of
help
nowhere. But I like
I
it
think it's
because it leaves this like really bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
And just like
I think
like what a
that's
downer.
I think the way it was shown was just too funny to me to where didn't.
You needed like a longer crossfade maybe.
Well, that's actually funny that you mentioned the crossfade, because it's like one of those blink and you'll miss it moments, but there's like the fade of the mother, right? Like the dead
Yeah.
mother overlaid on his
They
face.
superimpose.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I caught that.
That's so cool. I love that little touch.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, as far as like Marion's story goes, I kind of like part of me kind of like I get why. Like, I get the movie's not like is really not supposed to be about her. I kind of wish we got more of that. Like, I almost kind of wish like we got like an alternate like universe story. of,
What if?
sure. What if of Marion, where it just like kind of devolved. I just picturing this, but like it just kind of devolves in like this psychological thriller where she's just like maybe like just paranoid and like on the run from this like suspicious police officer, right? Almost like kind of not to reference this movie, but like almost similar to like the main character in Lolita, where like that car is like chasing the what.
Okay,
Like, you know, like
no. So I don't know anything about Lolita, so I have no idea what
I've
you're
never
talking
seen
about.
this movie.
guys, don't do this to me.
Oh, no.
Just
Hang on a
tell
second.
you what you were saying
No.
so I can know what you're talking about.
Okay, so you want
No.
what you're saying is you want like you would almost be interested in seeing an adaptation that just is the story of her on the lam, trying to
Yeah.
answer the question of should I just turn myself in, or would that make the situation worse? And I've already gone this far.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I mean
Yeah,
I think is a
essentially.
testament to this movie doing something that I don't think a lot of horror movies do, which is that they get you invested in their victims. You know, and that's always been like my sort of like thing, especially with like slashers, is that like I think slashers are really hard to do well because a lot of the time it's just like the characters that you don't care about wandering around and there's no sense of urgency or plot because they don't know what's happening. And so this is like so antithetical to what comes later, where it's like we're gonna really flesh out this character so that it's not just about the gag. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I love and have a huge amount of respect for makeup artists and for people that just want to make a horror movie that's just like, let's just see how gross we can do this. But it's so interesting to see something like this, all this time earlier. And which brings me to I think the last big question that I have, which we do on all of our horror adjacent or horror movies.
Oh.
And I know this is probably a really stupid movie to ask this question for.
Yeah, I don't.
Which is exactly why I'm going to do it. So what is your guys' golden chainsaw in this movie for the best kill?
If we all don't have the same answer, you're just wrong. But I'll kick it off, and like, because of how iconic it is, I think the shower scene deserves the golden chainsaw. Right? And because that's the golden chainsaw, and there's only 2 deaths in this movie. That means the PI falling down the stairs with
a dull machete.
Stab wound.
That's your dull machete for worst kill.
I guess, yeah.
Okay.
Like what else? What else is there? Really?
Dayton, what about you?
So I disagree with Marquise. I'm joking. I mean he's correct. I mean, if does the mom count as a death?
No, we don't see her die. It doesn't count.
But the thing is, count. Okay, I don't know how he counts them. But
I think you need to see them actually die on screen. Like, I don't think he would count the 2, because at the end of the movie, there's like, oh, we have like 2 other girls that have gone missing, and they're probably in that bog too. Like, you wouldn't count that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, I'd say, yeah, it's of course those 2, the 2 that Marquise gave. The shower scene's obviously the golden chainsaw. Yes.
I think the shower scene, but it's so funny to think about because we don't technically see the killing. Like the stabbing or anything. Like we see her dying, kind of.
Yeah.
But
we see a knife razor.
Hitchcock made the movie in black and white because if he showed the blood, it would be too gory. Right? It's really funny.
I remember hearing a rumor that the blood in that movie is just chocolate syrup. Is that true? Does anyone know?
Yeah, that's the only thing that's consistently right in that black and white.
There's a fact that I wanted to bring up. Hitchcock and the writer included a lot more like wild things that wouldn't pass the Hays Code, so that when they were editing the movie, the executives cut out so much that like it was able to leave exactly what Hitchcock wanted. So he intentionally put a lot of wild stuff in the movie so that when they were cutting it, they would focus more on the more wild aspects, so they would leave what he wanted in the movie. And so like that's probably like as you said earlier, that's probably why like the shower scene is like cut like that, because they were cutting a lot of stuff out. You know what I mean? So I found that really interesting, and again another like just brilliant thing from Hitchcock. And like and as Andromeda said, like they purposely made the movie black and white so that it would better pass the Hays Code. And plus he just thought it made the movie more scary or scarier. Yeah.
And it was cheaper. It was like, remember, this is a director in like arguably the height of his career, right? Like when we talk about directors, we're typically going to talk about their earlier works. Like if I'm talking about Tarantino, we're likely talking about Pulp Fiction, his second released feature film. We're not usually talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And like that's just the thing. Like Hitchcock's movie Psycho was in black and white, and he chose that because it would be cheaper.
I think it is actually like a testament to him as a storyteller, because so many directors... There's a term, what we call the blank check movie, where you've kind of like done enough for the studio of like, you've probably made like a hit, indie movie and like you probably did like a bigger budget thing like for the studio that like probably working on some like IP or something where they like just you're kind of just a hired gun to kind of get that movie off the ground and you don't have as much script input. And hopefully, and once you kind of like, and then like maybe you'll do something that's a little bit more your speed, because the studio is now willing to kind of like do a risk on like one of your projects, and then eventually you get to your blank check movie. And I have a weird affinity for directors like blank check movies because they're usually bloated and weird, but uniquely them. And yeah, Hitchcock is at like a point in his career where he could probably totally be doing like a blank check movie. Like if he really wanted to, he could probably be doing like some big crazy thriller. And to be at this point in his career and you're getting close to having made 50 feature length movies and you're like, I want to do this quaint little story that like could almost be a stage play with how like limited in locations and characters it is. I think that's so fascinating and like honestly like a testament to him to his knowledge that less really is capable of being more.
Well, what's interesting is that like the studio didn't want to give him any money for this movie because
Really?
just based on the premise alone, a man in a wig in a dress back then, it like unless it was played for like comedic purpose, like it was like atrocious to people, unfortunately, right? And so based on that premise alone, the studio didn't really want to give him any money, and so they're like, you know what, we're not gonna pay you your usual salary. We'll just give you a cut of this. Like we'll just give you like a large percentage of the movie. I think it was like 50 or like 60% of the earnings from this movie, and it ended up being his highest grossing movie, right? Because like his usual like rate was like $250,000. He ended up making $15 million from this movie, right?
Oh jeez.
So yeah, so like. In that respect, like it just worked out for him perfectly, right? So, Hitchcock, one of the goats.
Am I acting as if there's something wrong?
She's not missing so much as she's run away.
Put me down. Mother! Oh, God! Mother!
All right. I think I'm going to go ahead and start winding this down. So, as we go around our little virtual circle here, I'd like to ask each and every one of you, would you recommend Psycho to folks? Let's start with Dayton.
Yeah, especially if somebody doesn't know the twist. I feel like that really strengthens the movie for a person who's not super into just like the technicality of any movie. They want to just like be scared. You'll be really scared if you don't know what's happening, like what the twist is. The suspense will really work. So I would recommend this movie.
I would absolutely recommend this movie. But also, if you listen to this podcast, you know everything that happened, so then you can ruin the movie for yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything, it's a great movie to start getting into horror, seeing where it came from, and also just the height of Hitchcock's work in general.
Yeah, like if you're big into like horror and thriller movies, or just like big on film in general, and like you want to see like a really good director in his prime. I mean, I'm probably not prime, but like, you know, like fading out of his prime, but like still probably one of his best movies. And yeah, I would definitely recommend Psycho to you.
Can I ask you this, Marquise?
Yeah.
If you knew that he was going to show up in a dress and a wig when you went into this, do you think you would have gave up halfway through and watched a video essay?
Yeah, I mean, I would be like, because if I knew the premise of this movie, I'd be like, well, where's Norman Bates? And then like as soon as like the iconic scene happened, I'd probably be like, yeah, I probably could have got more from a video essay.
Okay, for sure. I mean, it's under 2 hours. It's almost like an hour and 30. It's only a little bit longer than that. You know, I mean, it's always moving, which is I think impressive for a movie of the time because I like older films, but I think I'm honestly kind of. I think audience members are spoiled with the pacing of modern movies because it's just like some of these stuff that's coming out today, it is just non-stop. And this is a movie that I think does a really good job of keeping your attention through all that time, and I think the performances are really fun and endearing. I think it's shot really well. We didn't touch on it, but I love the use of sort of mirrors in the motel, and the way that characters are literally kind of reflecting on who they are. in those moments. But yeah, for sure, check it out if you haven't seen it, even though we've literally just spoiled everything. Maybe we need to start having a spoiler warning in these episodes. I'll think about
I
it.
said spoiler warning.
But yeah, for sure, check it out.
She just goes a little mad sometimes.
I think that's going to bring an end to this episode. Once again, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. I love you all, and good night.